Okay, good evening. We need to open the regular meeting back up. Today is May 23rd. It is now 7:14. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton to open the regular meeting at 7:14. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. Okay, we are now in open session. We'll start with where we left off, and that's with agenda additions on the agenda. Is there any agenda additions this evening?
I have another postponement. We have the EIC Director Contract Renewal. I had it postponed to this meeting, but as the full board is not present, I'd like to have that postponed to the next meeting or when the full board is present.
Right, it already is identified on the agenda as being postponed.
Yes.
So, correct.
But it is on the agenda, so I just want to make sure that,
Right.
yep.
Okay. Any other agenda additions or corrections?
Need to make an addition for Resolution 202216 for the MEDC.
Okay, and I'm assuming you want to place that under resolutions?
Yes.
Okay. All right, anything else? All right, with that, is there a motion to accept the agenda with that change?
So moved.
Support Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Spencer to approve the agenda along with that addition of resolution number 2022-16. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on the agenda, we have the first public comment section. On this, you would need to fill out a comment card, and it needs to be on topic that is on our agenda this evening. Are there any comment cards?
Yes, I have one. Nancy Roy.
Okay.
Nancy? Okay.
Who's running the timer?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do we have usually we have a screen that's up over here that has a video, and then normally our treasurer runs the timer from that, but she is not here. So I will, I will use the timer on my phone, I guess.
It's just access to a web server, isn't it?
I don't know how she did, to be honest with you.
I don't know how
It
they
linked
did.
right into I thought it linked right into the,
Yeah.
I don't know.
They might be able to just give us the link. We'll see.
I don't ask things that are not my responsibility.
Fair enough.
Right, normally there's the meeting is like on both places. I was pointing and not talking, I'm sorry.
Thought I saw that blink.
There we go.
Okay, I think you can come up. Nancy? Okay, I'll start the clock after you state your name, Nancy, okay? Okay.
Just so you know, I still can't hear very well, so I would appreciate it if everybody, as you're conducting business, raised your voice a little louder, please.
Okay.
I moved this closer so that if anybody else speaks, the microphone will pick
Okay.
it up as well.
All right, thank you. Are you ready to start then?
Yes, my name is
Okay.
Nancy Roy. I have a handout tonight for anybody who's interested. It's about the OMA rules for closed sessions, because I know we were having one tonight. I would like to reiterate that your statement about the closed meeting tonight was very generic, and it does not state that you can make a generic statement. It does say that the public body can deliberate in a closed session, but, just a second. I apologize, 1 second. According to this, it says you were supposed to vote to go into closed session and do it apparently as part of the meeting. Then it lists the 11 reasons that closed sessions are allowed. It also mentions that you must make some kind of a statement. It's probably in the first paragraph, and I apologize for not having it highlighted.
And I am
It
not,
does
yeah.
state somewhere in here that you are supposed to indicate what the closed session is supposed to be about.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
right, and the timer, you're at 2 minutes, just want to let you know, but we did actually, the agenda is posted, the meeting started at 6 o'clock. We opened the meeting. We actually, if you look at the agenda, we went into closed session. We made a motion to go into closed session to discuss privileged and confidential information dated 5/20/22 from our attorney. We then went into closed session. There was a couple people in the room as we were starting that meeting. They left. And then we went into closed session. Everybody had to be out. We then finished closed session at 7 o'clock and then opened the doors and got everything going, and then started the meeting by opening back up the regular meeting and then going into agenda additions, which
Okay,
is next
so-
on the agenda.
So then, even though the meetings normally start at 7, I must have missed that on your agenda listed Friday?
I guess the short answer would be yes, because on the agenda that was posted, it states right on there that the meeting starts at 6 PM, and first on, after call to order, pledge of allegiance, roll call, we then go into closed session.
Okay,
So the people that were in the room when we started the meeting at 6 o'clock, and there were a couple that are actually on the agenda this evening for an LOI, we said, you're more than welcome to stay here until we go into closed session, but a couple of them left, a couple of them stayed, and then we went into closed session, everybody had to leave, and then we discussed it.
okay, so I will watch closer for the time that the meetings start.
Right, normally our meetings always start at 7 PM, except for when we have closed session, and then we actually do it earlier so that we're not running so late with the regular meeting and keeping everybody else here for longer.
So I will request that when you do that, if you flag it, highlight it, whatever, so that people see with extra attention that it starts early. I
Okay.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, are there any other comment cards for the first public comment? Oh,
No.
All right, there goes the timer. No?
No.
Okay, then moving into consent agenda. For consent agenda this evening, we have the approval of meeting minutes, regular meeting minutes on May 9th. I know that there was a couple corrections that were emailed out and uploaded on the packet. Did everybody have time to review those? Any questions or comments on those? Okay, hearing none, we move into finance. We have payment of bills. We first have Sorry, I had my thing on for the timer. Turn that off. We have payment of bills. The first is the prepaid May 17th run, $125,158.11. Are there any comments or questions on those? Okay. Hearing none. We have the check run dated May 24th, $38,166.36. Any questions or comments on those? Okay. Hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Spencer to approve the consent agenda as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Westerbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right, moving on to subcommittee reports and project updates. First on is the May 2022 engineering progress report. Dave?
Good evening, Dave Richmond with Rowe Professional Services. The engineering report was in your packet. I'm going to go through and hit some of the high points, and then if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer any. Phase B water main project that was started last year that is currently under restoration. They've started restoration back up on that project. And there was 5 homes, I believe, that have left to be connected. 2 of them are underway or are getting ready to. I think they're waiting for the last 3 to get back to get that scheduled with them. Phase C, which is the project that was just bid, we are working on getting all the paperwork from the contractor and getting that one ready to move forward. Phase A, which is Woodland and Woodland Drive, and Phase F, we are currently wrapping up the plans and specifications and hope to be able to get that one out to bid in the next 2 weeks so that we can still hit construction season towards the end of the summer for that one. And then as far as the sanitary sewer improvements, the CWSRF, they're moving along fairly well on that with the building for the bar screen out at the lagoon system. That's moving along pretty good. They're making good progress on that. They've started putting in the electrical panels for a lot of the other pump stations. One of the big key things to note about that project is after Memorial Day, they'll be getting ready to start doing some directional drilling of force main. And probably one of the ones you're really going to see where that's going to affect is going to be the one on River Road, where they're going to be going down underneath the river for pump station number 7. But they are holding off until after Memorial Day. Probably a couple weeks after Memorial Day is when they're going to get started on that one. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
So I guess first, when you said the sewer, with the River Road Bridge, how much is that going to, is it going to go to 1 lane? What's going to impact for traffic there?
It's going to be the shoulder closure for the most part when they're putting in the force main. Now, when they actually go to do the pump station, it will be down to 1 lane. That's not going to happen until later on in the summer, but they want to get the force main installed right after Memorial Day, and then that pump station will not be happening. I think the schedule is somewhere in August, possibly even after Labor Day before that happens.
Okay. All right, and then you had indicated on Phase A, I know there's somebody in the audience here that lives on Oak Street, so we're still waiting to go out to bid for that?
Correct. That will be going out to bid probably within the next 2 weeks. We're just finishing up going through our review process of our plans and specifications, and that should be ready to go out to bid, I would say, within 2 to 3 weeks at the latest.
And the reason for that delay of going out to bid was because of the securing of the funding?
That is
which
correct.
just got cleared up?
Right.
Okay.
We are moving forward with the C2R2 funding.
Okay.
Was there any clarification on the amount of the funding, the 2.4 and the 8.6?
I think we're still working through that yet. There's been some emails that were traded between Mr. Freeman and Leanne Hardesty from Eagle, and they're still working on that. We're still trying to get through that whole process.
Okay. I had a little note. You didn't touch on the Oscoda Beach Park improvements. I had an announcement I want to make to the board at our meeting last Thursday, the Oscoda Lions Club, since they were made a sizable contribution to the original splash pad that's down there at the park. and part of our plan is to increase the size of that splash pad. The Oscoda Lions has made a $5,000 contribution to that fund for the
Very good.
expansion of the splash pad.
Very good. And we should be hearing sometime in the middle of June about the grant that we applied for through MEDC. I believe that's when they're supposed to be making their announcements about those grants.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Dave?
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, moving on, we have the Economic Improvement Director update. Todd?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Just a really quick update. I just wanted to let the board and the public know that I was kind of on the road the last 2 weeks. I hit 3 different conferences. I was at the Northern Lakes Economic Development Association conference, a one-dayer at the Small Town Rural Development Conference, well, actually a day and a half, and then lastly, the Michigan Association of Planners Spring Housing Institute. 2 takeaways that I thought I would pass on. Everybody in the entire state is talking about housing and how we solve for this crisis, and everybody is in the same boat. I kind of liken it to an arms race. Whoever wins the battle in the fight to get the most housing is going to be the most successful community or communities. So I just pass that along as information. And it's a big deal, and it's important to everybody across the whole state. The next topic I thought was interesting. Well, several people congratulated us for our RRC win. Congratulations for other development wins that we've got going. Specifically, I had someone from CDAM take me aside, and she had mentioned that she's trying to benchmark communities kind of around the state. They're the ones who do the intern or the fellow programs, and so she was talking to some folks at the MEDC. What communities are doing it best? Who should we benchmark? Who should we learn from? The answer, she said, was Oscoda. We're doing a really great job of developing our community, and especially as it relates to sales and marketing. And then at the Spring Institute, I had an opportunity to talk to a couple of the MEDC folks. They were very congratulatory, obviously, of our RRC, and gave several compliments for the sales and marketing effort that we're doing. They said that website is awesome. Keep up the good work, is what they said. So just thought I'd pass that along to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Great.
Todd.
Do we have the RAB committee update? I mean, I know Mr. Cummings, okay. Wasn't
Yeah,
sure if Mr. Cummings was-
I wanted to, we had our quarterly RAB meeting, that's the Restoration Advisory Board meeting, last Wednesday evening, and may have noticed a lot of activity on the base. They're in the process of a couple of IRAs taking some action to do some cleanup on the base and trying to eliminate some of the plumes that are flowing off the base into Van Etten Lake. There's an action taking place where they're going to put in extraction wells and extract the groundwater, treat it, and but in order to do that, they have to pump it into our storm sewer system. The township has been negotiating with the Air Force since roughly late 2017, early 2018, on use of our storm sewer. Just for a quick timeline for the board and the audience, the central treatment plant, or the Arrow Street plant that's there at the corner of Arrow and Skeel, the Air Force calls it the central treatment plant, has a capacity of 500 gallons a minute that they can process through there. With this new activity that's going to be going in there, they will nearly double that. That equates to about 1.4 million gallons of water a day that'll flow into our storm sewer. What we did when they were building that plant, the township was in negotiations for almost a year with the Air Force to come up with a fee to charge the Air Force for use of that storm sewer. Rick Freeman with Rowe Engineering at the time did a study to come up with, wasn't just a number we pulled out of a hat to come up with a cost for the use of that. It has to do with at some point the township is responsible for that storm sewer, and any repair or maintenance or replacement that will happen to that facility, that infrastructure. And so we negotiated a cost for the Mission Street, or for the central plant. The cost was roughly $2,400 a month that the Air Force would pay, so that in the future, if that line has to be replaced or repaired, we would have the money to be able to do that. Those pipes were put in by the Air Force when they originally built the base, so they've been in the ground a long time. The likelihood that there could be a problem with them, they are cement pipes that have joints approximately every 6 feet. So anyway, they started paying when the central treatment plant went online. In 2019, the Mission Street plant, they revamped that plant to a GAG plant, and we're going to start using that. So we came up with a cost for use of that. That's a separate storm sewer line. The cost of that was about roughly $3,000 a month. When we sent that invoice to the Air Force, they declined the payment of that and stopped paying on the central treatment plant line. What they came up with was an idea that we had a meeting with the Air Force, and what they said is the Air Force will pay up front to slip line the storm sewer lines, which means they put a lining inside of those cement pipes, which, according to our engineers, was a perfectly viable solution to the problem of the township being liable for repairs or replacement of those sewer lines. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. We got word here recently that, originally we had heard that the Air Force had enough money to do what they needed to do this year, but we were notified that they weren't going to be doing the slip lining until the 2023 fiscal year, which for the Air Force starts October 1st, which means it'll come under that fiscal year, which could mean any time after October 1st through October of the next year. What I learned at the RAB was that they only intend to slip line the Mission Street plant, because we have had failures of that line already where you have root intrusion. That root intrusion causes flooding, which about a year ago, because of the amount of water, again, almost 500 gallons a minute that's flowing through those lines, it did flood because of root intrusion, and the line was plugged, nearly flooding the entire villages over there. We had to call in a company from Saginaw to rotor-rooter that line out to eliminate that flooding to the cost of about $4,000. The reason I wanted to bring this up to the board is that we have been trying to work with the Air Force we don't want in any way to slow down the progress that they're trying to make of cleaning up the contamination on this base where we're sitting right now. But with this new information that they're only intending to slip line one of those lines, which was not what we had, I thought, agreed to, and they're only willing to pay a minimal monthly payment along with that slip lining. I think it was going to amount to about $150 a month, but we said that will be okay if in fact you are slip lining all the lines so that we don't have to worry about the maintenance of them over the next 30 or 40 years. However, now the Air Force has changed their tune and only doing one line. So if, in my opinion, if that's the case, then they should be making that original $2,400 a month payment for the central plant, plus the back pay back to 2018 when they stopped making those payments. So I wanted to bring that to the board's attention because I just think we're going to have to take a stronger stance with the Air Force and say you're not going to be able to use our storm sewer lines if you're not going to take responsibility for them. In our original negotiations, we tried to give ownership of those storm sewer lines back to the Air Force. We said, you can take over responsibility for them. Something happens to it, you fix it, you take care of it, the township be out of it. They absolutely, their legal team absolutely would not even consider that possibility. So I just don't want the township to end up being on the hook for potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars for storm sewer repair, for the Air Force to be able to use those lines. So that was information that was, to me, was new at the RAB meeting, the fact that they were only planning to slip line one of those sewer lines, and I wanted to make sure I brought that to the board for everybody's attention. So, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, thank you, Bill. All right, moving on, then on the agenda, we're on to the superintendent's report. We have 8 items to discuss. The first is the LOI on Perimeter Road property purchase. Tammy?
Okay, your packet contains competing offers for the purchase of the above referenced properties. For your information, the marketing data sheet representing the property for sale is included. The combined parcels represent a total of 15.75 acres zoned industrial. The township makes no representation that utilities are to the site, only nearby. Both purchasers have provided information regarding background and project narratives for intent, nominating these parcels as disposable and entering into a purchase agreement with a buyer requires township board approval.
Okay, is Todd going to be presenting the information? Or are we asking the people that are here to present? How are we moving forward?
Well, you guys have the information in your packet, and I believe I see one of the prospective buyers here.
They're both here.
So, okay. So, yeah, I mean, I think nothing better than from the horse's mouth.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with, I believe the way they are in the packet would be Mr. Shelton is identified in the packet first. That's what I'm looking at. So if you would like to add anything to your presentation, if you want to come to the, or your offer, I should say, if you want to come to the podium.
Hello,
Hi, Brian.
Brian Shelton. I've been to a lot of township meetings, so I'm not really quite sure on the, how we move here. I just kind of present the offer as far as,
It's up, I mean, we have the offer that you've submitted. I mean, you know what you provided us.
Yeah.
If there's anything you want to add to it, I guess, or highlight or anything like that.
no, I'm just,
And then,
initially, it's going to be jet engine storage and with an accessory shop to follow down the road. There is a dire need for jet engine storage. Coletta's basically out of room, and now with 3 engine shops on the base, well, I've worked in the engine shops on base since 1995, and they do a lot of customer work, and their storage in building 396 is full. So now any customers that want to bring their engines here, they have to wait till the shop has an opening so it can go directly in the shop. So hopefully we'll be able to provide, ease that pain so the customers can send them. And then when they are repaired, there's a lot of times the engines will sit for 3, 4, 6 months or 2 years. But they've got to be on a scheduled inspection interval with experienced personnel doing that. So that being said, any questions from the board or anybody else?
does anybody, I guess, I know you're looking at both parcels. There's 10.72 in the one, 5.03 in the other. The 5.03 is on the, attached to perimeter. Which were you?
Well, I was told that is one.
Right. It is one. I guess when you're talking about, though, putting an engine shop and stuff, are you thinking more of coming off a perimeter? Or were you looking to put a road in because there's no really access to that larger parcel in the back coming in
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, initially, what my initial plans would be to put the storage, the engine storage on perimeter, and then the back would be the accessory shop.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board?
Would you consider this a warehousing and distribution center?
No,
The engines come in and are stored and then are sent out somewhere, or?
no, this is, for example, I currently rep for a company out of Hartford, Connecticut, and we have one engine in Coletta's Building 396 awaiting maintenance. Now, that particular engine is probably not going to be able to be inducted just because they're so busy until, I'm guessing, September. We have another engine that is awaiting maintenance, and we right currently, they lease one of the buildings, it's out by the training center, but it's not, I'm not sure what it was used for in the Air Force, but it's not environmentally controlled. So, I mean, it's damp, it's a very corrosive environment. So, other than that, not really a distribution center or anything like that. It's, there can be work done. So if the engines, there's humidity indicators on these, they're shrink wrapped. And this is an engine that's in stand approximately 10 foot tall and 20 feet long. And it's shrink wrapped with dustkint in particular spots throughout the engine with humidity indicators on it. And if that building's got to be protected in such a way that the humidity has got to be at, you know, a certain level. And if not, at that point, then they get unwrapped, inspected, new dustkint put in. And there may be sometimes the engine will come directly from Coletta's test cell into that facility, and then it would be finished up, wrapped up, and then stored or then shipped out.
So it then would be distributed from there as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I got a question. It just says in your write-up here, so you would end up employing initially 5 to 6 A&P mechanics to do the overhaul work?
No, not A&P.
Not A&P?
No. I just got to have experience, but it's not a repair facility, so it's simply monitoring. And now, down the road, if you are doing work in there, returning stuff to service, inspecting, it's kind of aviation terms, then it has to be classified as a different shop, which down the road it could be a 145 repair station where you could do what's called hospital visits, you know, replacing blades. And so there's a lot of potential down the road. It's just, you know, baby steps.
Right.
How long until you're ready to build?
I'm going to be, as soon as I can. Right now, certainly need it before winter, you know, that, so we can get things, well, my customers, I need to get engines stored for them. So we really have a need for it right now. So it's as soon as possible.
And you mentioned in here the growth of 25 to 40 plus employees. Where would, you said originally 5 to 6, where would that additional 25
The accessory
to 40?
shop.
What
Yes.
kind of a time frame would you be looking at for that?
I don't have one. I would like to see that in approximately 8 months to a year. But again, it's just something that I've got to get to that point first. And right now, that is a spot where you do require licensed mechanics. And so that's kind of a whole nother level because of getting those A&P mechanics or training them in-house. So
So is that work, the future work, where you would have A&P mechanics for the overhaul of the starters, starter valves, stator vanes, that kind of stuff. Is Coletta outsourcing that out of the area
Yes.
today? So it would bring more of an insourcing situation if you get to that point.
Yes, it's, some of those items are, the turn times right now in the industry are so extreme. Starters, start valves, high-pressure shutoff valves, stator vane actuators, these are things that could be done, but the turn time in some of these places may be 4 to 6 months down the road. It's just, it's extreme throughout the industry, and it's everywhere, not just aviation.
Thank you.
I did some research on that and looked it up, and there is actually a great need for that right now. Do you
Oh.
see any benefit? Because I looked just on location of
accessories?
current ones, yeah, there's not a lot, so would that be a benefit by you having that business for Coletta to possibly have more business because they are behind and they're not able to store these expensive engines? They said they're storing a lot of them outside and other places where they don't have them, so the facility seems important to the business itself and something we haven't had besides where they're storing out there now.
Absolutely. The accessories itself, Coletta just doesn't, the people and the facilities, his big picture right now is moving freight. For him to try and get another business that's gonna rob guys from repairing airplanes and engines, it's tough. You know, just to get those folks to get them up to speed to do that and get the facility. We were gonna try and do it basically in-house. We had put a proposal together, and it was a real nice proposal, but it was something that Connie just, not right now. I mean, we need it, but he just can't field the people. There's too many additional aircraft being added where those people are needed elsewhere.
Gotcha.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the second proposal that we have in the packet is from Mr. Cruz. I'm sorry, it's Nathan and Art, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So again, we have your proposal, you know, and it was very detailed. You have the LOI and then additional information. So anything you would like to add to that?
Correct. I
And
want to
then
make sure
if-
that you
yeah,
understand there's an escalation clause in our purchase agreement as well.
I did see that.
The other opportunities that I wanted to offer to the board was that we've been working on this for about 4 months now. Nathan's been over working with the people in Traverse City to understand the environment that brings in storage units. These storage units are important to the community, not just Coletta, not just the people on the base, but we recognize that larger storage units are a need. So not only are we working on the land with the Oscoda Township, but we're also working with the OWAA to actually build some community storage units and within our phases. Right past, I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but to the left of the very last outdoor storage units that we see there. Nathan has drawings available on phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 over the next 5 years. We've already contacted Yates Logging here locally that's ready to start clearing out the land there, and we can get it excavated and begin to put the larger storage units that we're talking about for the community, not for the businesses of Oscoda, the plumbers, the electricians, the cruise comms, the OWA themselves would need bigger units as well. We got pricing models. We have everything available. The presentation that we've given you guys are ones that show our involvement with the OWA and understanding that, you know, we're looking at 5 acres from them as well to put up 10 by 10 storage units, 5 by 5, then we have the bigger 12 by 35s that are going in. But the land that we're looking at for you guys are all going to be individual buildings, 14 by 35, 14 by 40, 14 by 60, and put those up in there and be able to lease those out to the businesses that need storage. Have been talking to DTE. They do have gas lines out there. So we know that we can also do heated storage on the property that we're looking at here, so that we can provide the humidity control within some of the buildings that would be sitting out there.
Okay, thank you.
It's also nice to see that my son, 25 years old, has put a business plan together that's well organized and structured.
Yeah, thank you. All right, did you want to add anything, Nathan, before we go to questions?
I mean, I guess I'll say the thing, like August, we already have it planned. August, we're gonna put the concrete down. We're gonna let it cure for a month, and then if we get the land, and then in October, the steel building's gonna be erected and fully functional in December, basically. So we have it all time frames ready to go. Everything's set in stone, we just need the land, and this is too.
Yeah, we are self-funded, but we also have Huntington National Bank that's standing behind us. They kind of regret that I'm kind of like self-funding this because they really want to be involved in it. So financially, we're set on that side, and I believe that has a letter in the packet showing phase 1.
I don't think it does.
Okay,
And then do you guys have any questions?
yep, does anybody have any questions?
Have you looked at alternative properties for this?
There is none around here. We have went to.
There are none?
Townhouse,
No properties, you
Harrisville.
say?
Well, that's listed on the website. This one says looked, and this one's listed. And then you have the one over there by the logging company.
Are you talking about just from the township?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at Perimeter Road, that whole stretch of Perimeter Road after ball fields are pretty much storage. Appears to be storage unit. The OWAA is actually wanting to keep that storage facility type of thing running down through there, all the way out to the runway, actually. We have looked in Tawas. We've been in several, we've been looking for a couple months, and the only reason we didn't see this property up for sale earlier was it wasn't on your website, and then it popped up on the website, and then we immediately jumped on it. Well, it fits right into our business plan, and it's right there where the other storage units will be.
So how would your intent be to access then, again, you have Perimeter Road, but then there's the property behind it?
So
So what is your thought
we're
on
gonna
getting
come
there?
off perimeter. We're gonna have so it's gonna be all fence, the whole acre. You're gonna have a fence, and it's gonna have a road that goes straight there, and it's gonna tee off as an intersection. So you'll be
Okay.
able to get to every single storage unit, and they'll have their own road connected. So you'd be boom, there's one, you drive down, there's another one. So it'll be
Everything
all
will be,
individual.
all access will be off of Perimeter Road.
Yeah. It'll be all blacktop too.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
And again, I stress that, it is funded, so, and we're ready to go.
Okay,
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
all right,
you.
thank you very much. Okay, well, we have 2 LOIs, and I believe you wanted to explain a little different approach that our attorney had in regard to.
So after a conversation that Mr. Dickerson and I had with the township attorney, she would like the board to review the LOIs, which I'm sure most of you have, and then ask her to negotiate the terms in a purchase agreement and bring the purchase agreement back to the board. So tonight you would only be agreeing to one LOI or the other, or neither. And then I would take both LOIs, or whichever you have chosen, to Lisa, and she would basically draw up a purchase agreement, and then you would have to reapprove with terms and conditions.
Yeah, the slight difference from how we've done it before is the verbiage in the previous resolutions or your votes have been approving or accepting the LOI or XYZ LOI. In her mind, in her terms, you're truly accepting that offer even before we've gotten to a purchase agreement. In this case, you are authorizing the attorney to engage with your nominated buyer to then work on a purchase agreement and work out the terms of the purchase agreement. Comes back to you for an official vote. It's a slight nuance to that, but the attorney's pretty specific that that's the way she wishes it to be processed.
Okay. Well, I think, I mean, both are, it's, for recapping, I don't know who's read the board packet, not, I mean, I don't mean the board members, we've all read the packet, I just mean the audience here. We have two proposals, both are basically in the same amount, although one has an escalation clause that actually goes an amount over a competing bid up to a not-to-exceed number. So in this scenario, that would basically bump it up to 55,000. And that's as far as it would go because that is the only other offer is 54, so. Okay. So that being said, there's two proposals. Is there any direction that anybody
Ann?
is wanting to take in regard to working with one or the other, or
We need
thought
to-
process, or more information?
First
the
vote
issue-
to
Before we make
it
that
disposable.
decision, do we have to do the
You
nominating
have to do the
parcels?
disposable
So we need to do that first.
first, yes.
Well, I guess I don't understand why we're advertising with dollar amount on a website, property that we're not sure if it's disposable or not. So I
They
guess
were
that
just-
I'm back to that same question with the
At one
dollar
time
amount.
were removed, right?
Yeah, a year ago, the board decided, well, before that, these properties were listed and made available for sale.
They were
Yes.
listed, yes.
Yes,
I know they were listed for a long time.
Correct. And
Right.
then we took them in-house and we were still advertising a set amount of properties. And then last May-ish, I think, we had a discussion about what should be disposable and what shouldn't be. And we wanted to go through and we wanted to talk about every single property that the township owned. So we went through that process. I provided maps. I don't remember what month it was, and I had said on more than one occasion to the board that we should go ahead and schedule this work session. To date, that work session has not been scheduled, so people have come to me asking if they can buy property. So we're in the business of trying to create prosperity and wealth in this community and sell our properties, so that's what we're doing.
Right. I'm not saying I don't want to sell the property. I'm just indicating that I thought it was already identified as indicating that it was disposable.
But again, we already set a precedent about 3 meetings or 4 meetings ago where somebody approached us on a property that was quoted non-disposable. We made it disposable that night. We listened to the offer and we sold it, basically. That just happened. So I'm glad people are pursuing us because the one thing I want to see is create jobs. And my issue with the OWAA land out there, we only have a finite amount of industrial property. And I think we have to be careful as a board, at least from my point of view, that we're creating jobs. I understand the need for storage and housing in the area, but I really want to see manufacturing. And if it ties into existing businesses out there, especially enhancing something that Coletta could insource, that, to me, that's something that we should be looking at, manufacturing type. Not to discount the storage issue, it's just we don't have an abundance of this type of property in this township, and we have to be careful. That's my comment.
All right, so first we need to start with making it disposable. So who wants to make that?
The parcel numbers.
Yeah, I can do it. I would make a motion to nominate parcel 066-029-200-007-00 and parcel number 066-029-200-007-10 as disposable.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Mr. Spencer, identifying the two parcels as disposable or that we're willing to sell. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Did you have, you guys, I saw a sidebar. Was there something that you guys wanted to add? No?
No, we're good.
Okay, all right. Then there was, I mean, you had made a couple points, Steve.
That's
Is there a
just my
motion?
points.
Is somebody wanting to move forward with a motion, I guess? I mean, I guess, first of all, I am very thankful that we have two proposals in front of us this evening, so.
I guess I have one other comment, and I guess it's more slated towards Todd and Tammy. If we ended up doing something with this tonight, can we put a restricted situation for use? And if it doesn't end up being that, as the attorney develops the LOI or purchase agreement, can it go back to the township? What I'm trying to avoid is land speculation.
That's the whole reasoning for her new process, that contingencies can be put in.
Right. Because our concern is that people are going to buy up property and then hang on to it and elevate prices that then when and if space developments come here, that we're, you know, we as the township can negotiate a lot easier than what maybe private entities would, so.
Right, and that's really the difference in her recommending that you don't specifically accept either of these LOIs.
Okay.
You are merely nominating one of the buyers to enter into negotiations or a negotiation process with the attorney so that terms and conditions can be worked out to the satisfaction of both parties.
Both parties, okay.
I had a question on this. Have you looked into the zoning for the Wordsmith Industrial?
Yeah, it's zoned industrial.
Under the zoning, it does allow warehouse and distribution centers, but it excludes mini warehouses and recreational vehicle storage. So, I mean, both these are, I mean, great ideas and things that we probably need here, but in my opinion, the first one would fit for storing the engines and then distributing them. That's why I asked the question. That would fit into our zoning ordinance. I don't believe the self-storage type units are allowed in the Wordsmith Industrial.
Gotcha.
Well, I'm just reading from the ordinance that excludes mini warehouses and RV storage units. That's not allowed, and that's in Wordsmith Industrial.
Right. Okay.
I know there's a need for that. I know there is. I'm just talking about what the zoning, and I have the list of the zoning ordinance, what's the principal uses.
Right, I know, well, there's always been a question in regard to industrial and job, you know, I mean, we've reserved the industrial space for job creation as a, because that's the goal. I mean, some of the grants that actually the township secured to demo buildings were based on creating jobs for them. I mean, I think the time has expired on some of them, but the EDA grants that were, you know, by like the senior condos and stuff, the goal was to create jobs. So, and it has been I know, an arm wrestle over the last few years for people wanting to purchase some of the land out there because there is no job creation in whatever they're wanting to do, so. Okay, well,
Anybody else have any comments?
any other comments, or is there a direction the board wants to move in?
So Mr. Palmer's talking about saving these for actual industrial facilities that are manufacturing things.
No, I think he's indicating that one proposal meets it and one does not. So, is that, did I just state that correctly, or?
I think so, in
Okay.
my opinion, what's being proposed, yes. And I think if that were to come to the planning commission, that's, and I hesitate to speak for the entire planning commission, but I believe that's what would come out of that is doesn't follow the zoning ordinance.
Okay. So is there somebody that's ready to make a motion or a direction in regard to moving forward with further discussion with one LOI over the other?
Well, I guess
Make a
I'll make a,
motion.
oh, go ahead, Josh.
I'd make a motion that we approve Mr. Shelton's LOI and instruct township attorney to negotiate the terms of a purchase agreement with that buyer for the final board approval.
Art, please. No, I'm sorry.
Josh, would you amend your motion to include that it's restricted for use within the aviation industry to create jobs?
Yes, I would.
I would support that.
Okay, there was an amendment to the motion by Mr. Sutton, in addition by Mr. Westerbarth, to add that it's geared towards aviation and job creation. Okay, so there's, again, a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Westerbarth to move forward with the LOI that was presented from Mr. Shelton, just as a starting point for further discussion with our attorney, and that PO, that purchase agreement would come back to the township for approval. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried.
No financial support.
Art,
You just approved it. And we bring
Art, please.
everything in here. Show you we had to come here.
And an attitude that we don't like.
Jeremy, Art,
We understand that, Mr. Cruz.
Art, please. Thank you. All right, that's enough, Kay. Thank you. Okay, so we will be contacting you, Brian, in regard to moving forward with further discussions, okay? Thank you very much for your proposal. All right, moving on next to row engineering invoices. Tammy?
All right, your packet contains the following listed invoices from Row Engineering for services rendered. These invoices require Township Board approval.
Okay, so the first one we have is invoice number 103221, as needed services in the amount of $5,140. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, Palmer, to approve invoice 103221 in the amount of $5,140 to be paid from Fund 101-297-801.000.
Support, Sutton?
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton to approve that invoice as previously identified. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Next, we have invoice 103050 for the Oscoda Exploration Trail. The amount on that invoice is $2,587.50. Any questions, or is there a motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve payment of invoice 103050 to the Oscoda Exploration Trail in the amount of $2,587.50 from GL 101751880.572.
I'll support, Palmer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Mr. Spencer for that invoice 103050. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 103151 for the wastewater pump station improvements in the amount of $21,417.50. Are there any discussion or questions on that? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice 103151 for the wastewater pump station improvements to be paid out of the CWSRF checking in the amount of $21,417.50.
Okay, I'll support that. There's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Ms. Richards to approve invoice 103151. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. The last invoice is 103152 for the Water System Project 2023 DWRF in the amount of $5,233.75. Any discussion or questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I'd make a motion to approve payment of invoice 103152 for Water System Project 2023 DWRF in the amount of $5,233.75 to be paid from DWRF checking.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Mr. Spencer to approve invoice 103152. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to number 3 has been postponed. Again, it was on the agenda as being postponed, and we are waiting for a full board. We knew a week ago that one of the board members, Mr. Cummings, was not going to be here, and we had another board member that could not be here this evening as well. So then moving on to number 4, the hydrant purchase request. Tammy?
All right, your packet contains a request from F&B Operations to purchase 5 fire hydrants from EJ USA. The cost of these hydrants is for a total of $15,030.60. These 5 hydrants will be used for installation adjacent to the Georgia Street complex, installation at the new hotel property at Lake Street and Michigan Avenue, and 3 for yard stock. The capital improvement plan allows for $40,000 each year for hydrant replacements. I would ask that the board consider approving the proposal from EJ USA in the amount of $15,030 for 5 fire hydrants.
Okay, is there any discussion or questions?
Where are they going?
One needs to be put over by the Georgia Street complex, the new apartments that are going in. One needs to go on the block where the hotel is going in, and 3 are for yard stock. So,
Is there a specific fund these should come out of?
The capital improvement plan.
It's a capital improvement under water, correct?
yes.
I'd move to approve the EJ invoice in the total of $15,030.60 for the purchase of 5 fire hydrants.
Support, Sutton?
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the pump station replacement project, pay request number 6.
Okay, your packet contains the 6th pay request and the pump station replacement project in the amount of $824,238.52, leaving a total of $4,295,212.01 remaining for this project. I would ask that the board consider approving the 6th pay request for RCL Construction in the amount of $824,238.52 to be paid from Fund 590-000-974.000.
Shouldn't this be paid from the CWSRF?
We just today filed for another disbursement request. So in order to pay this right away, we have to pay it from our funds and we will get reimbursed.
Okay,
It's a very large bill.
okay.
Okay, any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the 6th payment application in the amount of $824,238.52 from the account specified by the superintendent.
Okay, I'll support that motion. There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. Richards, to approve pay request number 6. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Is my mic still on?
Yeah, I can hear you tapping it.
All right, moving on to the letter of support for Amerilodge Group.
All right, your packet contains a letter of support on behalf of Amerilodge Group for their pursuit of the MEDC RAP grant program. This letter of support is a necessary requirement for the grant application. Taking this action requires Township Board approval.
So now that we're RRC certified, these guys are jumping on board, huh?
So actually, this one doesn't have anything to do with the RRC. It's the MEDC's RAP, and I forget what RAP stands for right off the top of my head. But they're pursuing that grant on their own, and in order to get that grant, they need a letter from us and also a few of the private area businesses that would support them. It's part of the MEDC process.
Do we know what they're applying, how much they're applying for?
I do not know. I think that grant is worth $1 million.
And that's a matching grant?
Yes, but they're applying for it as a private entity. We're not.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not being funneled through us whatsoever. It's just a letter of support
Correct.
indicating
Yep.
that we're in support of their project.
Correct.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move
Oh.
to, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll
He
move
said
to
go
approve
ahead.
the letter of support.
All right, is there support?
Support.
All right, so there's, the motion was by Mr. Spencer and the support was by Mr. Wisterbarth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. For the letter of support for Amerilodge, roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right, moving on to the handbook review, anti-nepotism policy. Tammy?
Okay. Your packet contains the anti-nepotism section of the Township's handbook for your review. Currently, Old Orchard Park and DPW are struggling to obtain adequate staffing to properly run our parks and maintain our facilities. We have had a couple of applicants that have applied for positions but have needed to be turned away due to the current anti-nepotism policy in the handbook. Applications are enclosed in the packet. My request at this time would be to consider temporarily allowing these applicants to work for the 2022 season and readdress this issue in the following year.
I think it's a bad idea. I understand that we need these people, and I understand that they're willing to work, and I appreciate that. But this policy's there for a reason. And if we start dancing around it, we're just gonna open ourselves up for misery.
Well, one of the applicants is not related to an elected official. Her actual issue is her mother works at the park. Well,
Absolutely.
her mother isn't her supervisor. I just wanted to explain that. And
Maybe
it's just
not.
worth a shot. That's all. They're desperate.
So it's 2 employees, one of which, are they both out at the park? Or one's at DPW?
Neither are, well, I think they both applied for the park. Well, one's for the park store, and the other was DPW or the park. Am I right on that one? It's Josh's stepson, full disclosure.
I'm very hesitant about changing policies that are there for a reason. I understand it's very difficult to get people, but I think it just could open us up down the road for many issues.
Yeah. Just rereading it. The township will not employ anyone who's related to elected official. Because we had employed the person in the treasurer's office, right?
Right now?
No,
Oh.
like a year ago, for the part-time that was related to a board member.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. By marriage.
by
yeah.
marriage,
Yeah.
which is fine.
The board allowed it.
Right.
I believe that was disclosed at the meeting,
It
and the
was.
board still allowed it.
Yep.
So are
And
we trying to authorize an override for these two individual instances, or are we trying to change the policy forever?
You're just asking in these instances. You would revisit it later if the board wanted to, I believe is the intent. It's the same issue we've run into, yes, when we've had to use them
yeah,
before, and unfortunately,
Well, I guess
like Al,
yeah.
his kid played soccer, so he asked the soccer team, trying to get those kids that are leaving. And of course, my stepson was rather excited, but he knew we had to take it to the board to know if we could do it. And just trying to help them meet their need. We're trying, we're just looking outside the box.
Right.
This is where some of the people who are applying, unfortunately, due to the rules, can't work.
I mean, in this specific instance, I can see how he doesn't work anywhere near you. He's in a completely separate facility, and you guys would be under. But with the other one, her mother works there as well. I mean, you see, we're talking about having two people that are related working in the same department. I defer to the board.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously can cause problems in the sense that, somebody could indicate that, I mean, it's hard for young kids to get jobs in our community as it is, I understand that. So when we take away one opportunity for them and they're willing to work, and we have so many that are not, I mean, that's not good. But in the same sense, it could, if somebody's, I don't know, is he applying for out at the park?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he could be out in the park and somebody's like, well, yeah, his stepdad's a board member. He can get away with, I mean, it can just cause problems for him as well. So it's a great, yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to get preferential treatment or anything. I think it could just open up an avenue that, yeah, maybe.
And just for Jeremy's reference, the gal in the packet, she would not be totally working underneath her mother. I mean, she can work other places, other departments.
I
Fair
for
enough,
sure
I'm
think that it should not be in the same,
No, definitely.
any way, shape, or form immediate area, so.
Right. But I thought this would be something, or should be something that the board should decide.
I'm
So
sorry,
are
did
you
guys say-
considering just proposing that it's just these two individuals and not changing the policy, but the board is going to?
Correct.
You're asking the board to allow it.
I am asking the board's permission to allow this.
So
for
no
these two
policy is
exception
going
to
to
the
change.
policy.
Just for this moment, not to change the policy.
Yeah, the action considered is considered temporarily allowing the two attached applicants to work for the township for the 2022 season. It doesn't talk about, I mean, the agenda
not wanna
topic
change
is
it.
talking about policy, but it's not talking
Right.
about changing policy.
We can't add any additional rules per se to these folks. So if we give them a pass on this, we can't also say that if we even get a sniff of something going on in your family that's affecting the township, you're out of there. We can't add that to the employment because that's treating them unfairly. So I really think that
But they
I would
are-
love to bring them in here, but I just think it's setting us up for misery.
They are at-will employees.
I was going to say, they're all at will
So-
anyways, so. If we had a ton of young individuals beating down the door to work, I mean, it is a little bit dicey. They're not getting the job over somebody else, so we're not giving preferential treatment to to somebody that's related. We're having a hard time with people even applying to work in these positions.
Yes,
So,
no one is applying.
right.
No one.
Tammy, can you assure the board that if we did this, that these two individuals will not report in any way under their
Most
family
definitely.
member?
Most definitely.
I mean,
I would make a point.
Right, and I'm not trying to dismiss seasonal employee as being important or not important, but we're not talking about hiring a permanent part-time person or something like that. This is a seasonal temporary
Both of
employee.
these are
Right.
both of these are seasonal.
Yes, these are seasonal temporary employees. And again, I don't mean to diminish the importance of that position. I'm just saying it is a summer job.
Both positions are
Yes,
seasonal,
so.
yes.
Okay.
An eye on this yes would just abstain from voting.
Yes.
Because it concerns.
For the one.
stepson.
It only has to do if you're going to financially gain, my friend. And I don't believe that you would you?
He pays his car insurance to me.
I would, to be safe.
No, we have to vote on it now. So,
Well, we don't have a motion yet, so is anybody
saying
willing to
if
make
it
the
goes
motion to
there, yeah.
approve, allowing the 2 hires?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2 applications that we have. These seem to be summer jobs. I know at least the one person is under 18 years of age, so, I mean, obviously he's got to go back to school when starts. I did have some question about the other application, as long as it's not a long-term employment. I know they're applying for the office. I'm assuming that's at Old Orchard Park office?
Yes. So that would end when the park closes in November.
So that would be a summertime, summertime job as well. In the application on that one, no, we don't list the address, because it's a public document, but it has a zip code 48457. That's a Flint zip code, is that?
She comes to stay at the park every year as a seasonal.
She lives downstate, is that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I would make the motion to approve these 2 applications for summer help.
Bill, would you amend that to make sure that they don't work under their family members or relation?
Yes.
I'll support that.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Westerbarth to approve the hire of the 2 as long as they do not work under a family member as direct supervision, and they are summer seasonal employees. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
I suppose.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. And you're abstaining from
Yes.
vote because?
We have to vote on whether or not you.
We have to,
Yeah, we have to, yep.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because we didn't do that
I've
first.
never had to do this before, so.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. All right, well. So do we need to, what's procedure here?
Well, in order to allow him to abstain, we have to vote to allow that.
Right.
So.
I believe we have to invalidate the
so
last
that-
action
yes,
first.
exactly. So,
I'll make a motion that we invalidate the last action taken by the board in terms of summer help at Old Orchard Park.
Support, Spencer.
okay, so the motion to invalidate was by, the last action was by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Spencer.
Let's turn it into a mess already.
Yeah. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. All right, now, Mr. Sutton is asking to to recuse himself from voting based on the fact that his son is one of the applicants. Is there a motion to approve that request?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Westerbarth to allow Mr. Sutton to recuse himself from that vote. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
I vote. Do I have to vote on
That's
No.
a good question. No, I would say no.
No.
it? Ms. Richards?
Yes. Motion carried.
Now,
Okay, so now we go back to the original.
I will restate my motion to approve the 2 applications for the part-time employees, summer employees, and that they at no time operate under the guidance of family members.
Support.
Okay, so the motion again is made by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Westerbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
again, I suppose.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Whew, that was painful.
Don't make us regret this.
Okay, moving on to the yes, I'm sorry. DTE, do you pronounce it as Kratos?
Kratos.
Kratos, fund recovery?
All right. It has recently been discovered that the township's gas utility had been compromised by a company presenting themselves as DTE and offering lower rates. Since September of 2021, the township has been paying not only DTE, but also a company known as Kratos on our gas utility bills. Your packet contains 5 of the 6 utility accounts that have been overcharged and have decimated amounts budgeted for 2022. Currently, the entity has been removed and has denied any refund of the charges upon request. I believe in order for the change in the gas carrier needed, Township Board approval was needed. I am asking that the Township Board allow the Township's attorney to send an official request for refund of funds that were overcharged and proceed further if necessary.
Okay, so I'm assuming there's going to be some discussion or questions on this?
I have a couple questions. So I've read everything. I've listened to the audio that was sent. How did this vendor get set up in the system for payment, number one? And number two, why aren't we auditing the invoices that are coming in, and it took this long to find out that we were being double billed for raw gas? What failed in our system?
The invoices actually come from DT, which creates the issue as you look down, and the increases didn't kick in, and when they did, it's the time to remove them once we found them. So that was right when I took over accounts payable, and I had asked on the billing amounts, just because I was first seeing those in winter after summer, and then as we dove into those, getting them removed takes about 60 days getting through to get them, and then the big issue was our DT account's supposed to be government locked because of how we do business, and our DT account has never been set that way. So essentially, like Mr. Spencer called today, they could have called and got anybody on the phone to answer those same questions in order to record, and they would have transferred it over.
And it doesn't matter who it is.
Right. The
They could have,
secretary, clerk,
it didn't even
supervisor,
have to be, it could have been a
anybody.
citizen that was standing there and answered the phone and said, yeah, I'm allowed to do that, and they would have done it.
So they didn't need to be, they weren't set up in the accounts payable system because the check went to DTE the whole time, correct? So DTE then cuts a check to Kratos?
These third suppliers, yes.
I mean, I guess I don't understand how the,
DTE owns the infrastructure, and so you have to pay them either way.
You have to pay them a delivery charge.
right, I get that.
Not the raw gas charge.
And then whoever you buy the gas that's pushed through the pipe from is who they pay for you. So if you pay them, they keep it. But you can opt out and say, well, I don't want to pay DTE. I want to pay these guys because of whatever reason. Sometimes they do have lower rates. And so when that switch happens, now you're paying DTE for all the pipe charges, and you're paying for the gas itself from the other folks at whatever rate they specify at the time. So they start you out with a great rate, and it's all wonderful, and everybody's happy, and oh, what a deal, and man, I didn't even really realize that what was going. And then 3 or 4 months later, then the rate's 3 or 4 times higher than what DTE has, and you're just getting bent right over the barrel.
We were also paying DTE for the usage as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see that. I see the delivery fee, the distribution charge, the reservation charges, but the gas charge itself is only to Kratos.
No, it's on, hold on.
What page are you looking at here?
I'm going to show you. I have been over these bills up one side and down the other, trust me.
Well, since the thing is since we're paying DTE, they should know that account was changed, and they should not have billed us for that raw gas. And if they did, then that was their fault.
I
Okay,
mean, we
so-
literally,
In my
yeah,
opinion.
we have two
If you
indicates
look
right there.
at page 112, and this is the one bill for 342.44 to Kratos. If
Yep.
you look at that page, right above, at the very top, it's current charges, gas distribution is for $1,273.
No, that's the CCF, $1,273, and that's the
Or, that's what I
distribution
meant.
charge.
No, look down, no, the distribution charge is on the first page. This is the second page, total DTE gas company delivery charges, 546. So we are paying for the CCFs for DTE, and down below it, we are also paying Kratos $342.44 for the same amount of CCFs. So we've been paying
Oh, I do see
both.
that.
So,
Well,
I mean,
then, I don't,
again, I don't understand how DTE,
It's a double bill.
yeah, can do this.
I don't think they can. I think it's a mistake.
And do we have,
What
I mean,
page?
we talked about this briefly
It's not
earlier, Tammy.
112.
Do we have somebody like we have with Consumers Energy? I mean, we have good connections with Consumers Energy. Do we have anybody like that with DTE?
I don't have access, only the clerk and the treasurer have access to the DTE bills.
Yeah, we don't have anybody like we have for.
I think she's talking about, we have
A
an
rep?
interest with consumers because
That
we
would
the
still
property
be,
and all
that would
stuff.
still be through the clerk and treasurer's office.
Right. I mean,
We
it
know
would,
people at Consumers because we do business with them here, so we have people where DTE, you have your bill, and then
That's
you
it.
call the business line, and remarkably, they don't really have a government line, so they kind of kick you around until the business line transfers you to somebody who works on government matters, so. But it was a lot of fun to get around to the people I needed to and to get our account locked going forward.
I would also
times.
like to add that there was not a cancellation fee when this was canceled, but it will take a month for this to take effect.
and we're roughly $42,000 in the red, basically.
Most definitely. From what I looked at, when I went through every bill that we had since September, and I started marking where we started paying Kratos. So that roughly since November, the November billing till April. Total on all 5 accounts is 42. One second. I think it's 42,430. I think that's a real close number.
That's the total amount we've paid?
That's the total with all
Overpayment.
5 accounts together.
That's the overpayment?
Yes.
So there's the amount that we should have paid, and then we paid an additional $42,000 because they raised the gas rates right after, they went higher than DTE.
They were
Well, they
only
didn't
good
raise
for a
the
month.
gas rates, they're double. I mean, they basically,
Yeah, they can set it to whatever they want. That's the
DTE
thing.
has a charge, and so does, I mean, it's like the exact same amount, just twice on some of these. We're paying, I mean,
Well, you have a distribution charge, but then you have the charge for the gas
gas.
itself. And that's what Kratos is supplying. That's what, back in the 70s or 80s, MPSC allowed other companies to come in and provide gas through the utilities, so there'd be less of a monopoly.
Yeah.
We've had this brought to the board in past years. Our previous clerk was approached by a company offering to supply gas at a fixed amount through the winter months. And this was back at a time when gas rates were escalating quickly. But the problem is, you don't know what DTE fees are going to be. So we've always declined any of these third-party gas providers and gone with DTE because, but I looked at the Kratos in their first bill, their gas charge was .269 CCF, which is centum cubic feet, which means every 100 cubic feet. And then after that, their charge was .686. Now, just to reference that, on my personal bill for my gas cost, my last bill was .352 as opposed to .686, almost double. But what we don't know is what would we have paid if we had stayed with DTE and bought their gas? We don't know what their rate would have been through this time period. Right?
I believe their rate is on the bill. Let me go
Well,
back.
all I see is the distribution charge and the reservation charge.
Yeah, they
And I
rate
do see that
And you
twice.
have a
on the-
distribution
raw gas.
charge and a reservation charge no matter what.
And
I
on
have the
your-
same thing on
you're
my
saying-
bill.
You're saying on page 112 that there are two sections where they're billing us two different amounts. The first section is for 1,273 CCF, and again, there's the gas distribution charge from DTE, the reservation charge from DTE, and then the raw gas charge from Kratos. And then below that, where you were talking, there's another set of charges, and it must be for a different facility, because it's 4,810 CCF. And again, there's a gas distribution charge from DTE, a reservation charge from DTE, and then the gas charge for the raw gas itself from Kratos. So they're charging us for the gas charge. They're only charging, from what I can see, they have a really high rate. I
Well,
don't see what you're, I don't see.
I don't
From
see
the-
the double billing
I don't see a double bill.
for raw gas. And DTE would have a commercial rate for gas.
Do you still see it?
Different than residents. I don't know what that
There
rate
was
is.
one that was, I
If you
saw.
went back and looked at the bills, these bills have tripled.
Oh, I'm
For what they- what
I'm
they
sure that
used
they
to.
have. This is their modus operandi.
I
This is
lit-
this is what they did to me 20 years ago when I thought, oh, I'm gonna get a great rate on gas. And I did for 30 days. And then the very next month, it doubled. And then the month after that, it doubled again.
It's
And
the,
that's what they do.
Right.
You know, and
So,
sometimes
yeah.
they're lower. They give you an introductory rate, and then ha ha ha, suckers. But the thing is that it shouldn't have been switched over in the first place because we didn't vote on it as a board. So if we didn't vote on it, then it can't be switched. So I would make a motion to approve the attorney to dig into this issue and provide us a resolution, one way or the other.
Is there support for that?
I would support that. Palmer?
There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer to have the attorney draft, I think you asked to draft a letter, right, to initiate the process?
Yes.
Okay. Of refund. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
I guess I just have one comment. Is there a way to lock this account in our utility, or, well, it's really just the gas?
Yeah, Josh said he did it
Yes.
already.
It's locked?
Yes.
Okay. So it can't happen again?
They
So
can
in
do
the
it again.
future, yes,
they
it'll
can.
take a resolution from the
They can.
board
Yes,
giving
they can.
power for that to be
They can do it
unlocked.
again.
Otherwise, it'll always be DT.
So you're saying they can bypass that lock?
They can do that again, yes. If they call again and someone says, if they
Whatever
say,
they-
are you the person who pays the bills? And someone says yes, it will happen again.
But DTE, once it's locked, will not let them. There has to
It
be
will
an
happen
initiation
again.
from us, is what they
It will.
told me.
It will happen
They
again.
will?
You just have to, like we used to do previous years, I'd say 2018, you have to recognize who's calling. And we got to the point where as soon as they start talking, you just hang up.
Tammy, in addition, can you find out from DTE on what their commercial charges are for gas delivery, starting from September per month?
I can't do that. My name is not on there.
Well,
That would
Josh, are
either
you
be the
on
clerk
bill?
or the
So
treasurer.
Josh, I'd like to know by month what the commercial rate is.
Okay,
It's
so we
different
can-
from residential.
Right, we have a motion on the table for Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer. In regard to the attorney, are we ready for a roll call on that? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. I guess further, I would like to find out who, again, I'm sure that we have somebody similar to what we have with Consumers Energy, somebody from DTE that we can, not a customer service person that you just call and randomly go through 17 options. But maybe Rich Castle has some, I think that's how you say his name, right, Rich? Maybe he would even have some idea who we would talk to. But I do feel that this crosses, and it's not Consumers Price Index, it's It'd be the utility, the Michigan Utility Commission or something. I mean, I feel like this is, obviously it's bad when anybody gets scammed, but we were scammed like any other homeowner unfortunately has been, but we have, it's basically all the taxpayers that were just scammed.
We used
So-
to have CenterPoint Energy, I believe it is called, that monitored our utility bills. And that's something that, I think the contract was up in 2018.
Yeah, I kind of
think.
remember when we had that, yeah.
But that would be something that we can look into.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I feel like we should have somebody that is a little bit more of a point person. Todd?
I met the new person from DTE at the Friday's conference that I was at, and I'm happy to provide that name to Tammy and whoever else.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I have one other question. Going through all the bills here, why is there a water bill in the middle of all these gas bills?
Why is there a water bill?
That wasn't me.
I put that in there because that water bill had also come out of the gas utility account.
Oh. Well, look at me. So there's a water bill that came out of the wrong account, basically?
Yes.
Did you look into that and check back for us?
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate it.
I'd like to look at the process and why that happened. Josh?
It's probably an oversight, but just to
Yeah,
be
there's
sure.
set water numbers, so I don't.
I just was trying to copy each gas account so you could see the pattern there.
All right. Well, I mean, not trying to throw anybody under the bus here, but our accounts payable process is our last stop where we're approving things before it goes out. So we,
Well,
our budgets were all way over whack, correct?
Well, and utility bills is a different process.
Okay.
Utility bills are under blanket PO. Those can be paid so they're not late.
Right,
So those are just pay when you get.
correct.
So I don't see those. Those don't go through the regular
The
PO
regular, right,
process.
right.
So it's just pay the bill.
Right. I guess I understand that it's just pay the bill, but I think that when we're looking at some of these statements that we're looking at and we see things, usually you become familiar with some of the invoices and how they come. And then all of a sudden, if there's additional language and you see different surcharges, I think it's just, we need to start investigating things a little bit more, I
Well,
guess would be my thing.
I can't because
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
see.
not, I'm
I'm
actually
just
not-
clarifying that I don't see those.
I'm, again, talking more in regard to the accounts payable process itself and
Okay.
entering invoices. I'm not pointing fingers at you, Tammy, so. Okay, so we are moving on to resolutions. We have, first of all, an ordinance number 2011-246, an amendment.
Okay, and this amendment was provided by Ms. Villette for floodplain management. It hasn't been updated, I believe, since the 70s. And it needed to have just some minor updates provided.
Okay. Oops, sorry.
And these, I will add, are approved by the Planning Commission.
And these changes are because of because the law has changed on floodplains?
Right, and so there's also a resolution that goes with this to work with. These were just kind of dropped in our lap real fast and said, oh, by the way, these have to be approved by June 15th. So this has to do with emergency management as well.
So the only thing that they're changing is just the MCL numbers?
Yes, for the most part, yes. And they took out some old dated language, which is in section 16.3.
Yeah, the flood insurance rate maps and et cetera?
Right, those have all been updated.
And the planning commission, you said, did approve this
Yes.
and review it? Okay.
Yeah, and what you see highlighted in yellow is what we at the Planning Commission added or deleted
Okay.
or changed.
Great. Well, is there any discussion or are we ready to approve?
I would make a motion to approve the amendments as presented.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Mr. Spencer to approve ordinance number 2011-246, which is an amendment, I guess. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wushtabarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to resolution number 2022-14, which is civil infraction officer.
Okay, so whenever we get a new boat launch person, we have to do this resolution so they can write tickets. So Mr. Pingat was recently hired to replace Ed Storms, and this resolution has been passed through the attorney with some minor changes, but it's basically the same as past years.
Basically just granting,
Mr. Pingat the
Yes,
ability
Mr.
to
Pingat.
write a ticket.
Yep.
Yes.
I move to approve resolution number 2022-14 for the civil infraction officer.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Westerbarth to approve resolution number 2022-14. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Wushtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to resolution number 2022-15, the floodplain management.
This resolution goes along with the ordinance amendments that you just approved. Needs to be put in place before the deadline.
Any discussion, or do we have a motion to approve?
Is everything notated in yellow that was changed on this one as well?
Yes,
This
and
is-
these guidelines
is new.
actually came from FEMA. They came to us with them.
I don't see any changes, so this is just a brand-new resolution
This is
then?
brand new, yes.
Is there an old resolution that had to do with this that we should remove?
FEMA updates
I will have
the
to check, but
floodplain maps.
he's correct.
From time to time, and that's the reason for this ordinance.
Oh, for sure. I'm
this
not, yeah,
resolution.
I'm just trying to keep the books clean, and there seem to be a lot of old ordinances and resolutions on the books that don't even have any clout or teeth anymore, and because we've passed new ones that pretty much negate them, but it would be nice to get rid of them so that they're not there anymore. So I just figured I'd ask if there was one, and I'm sure that Tammy will get back to us if there is, so that we can look at it if the need arises. And in the meantime, I would move to approve resolution number 2022-15 for the Michigan Community Resolution and Intergovernmental Agreement to manage floodplain and development for the National Flood Insurance Program.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Westerbarth to approve resolution number 2022-15. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wushtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Then we have our agenda addition, which was resolution number 2022-16. And this is authorizing
Ooh, a wrap grant.
our grant application, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
for the RAP grant.
The one that we've already submitted that we
This
are in the
is,
process
this is
of.
new, right? This is a new grant
So
Okay.
for further funding.
Sorry, we're requesting $1 million, and the local funds to match are $50K?
Yes,
I'm reading that correctly?
Yes,
So
you
we
are.
come up with $50K, we get approved, they give us $1 million, and we have $1,050,000.
yes.
You have something you'd like to add?
You're not guaranteed.
No, I understand that. I was surprised at the difference in
Well,
the,
what it is on the local match for this is the revitalization and placemaking grant. Todd brought it up earlier, the Mare Lodge, being a private developer, they can apply up to $5 million. You, as a local agency, can go only to $1 million. And then the local match is not a requirement, but the higher your local match, the more points you score in the rating system. So what I did in looking at this was looked at a 5% match. which is a lot of the, possibly the engineering and planning services that would go into it if you're awarded the grant. And therefore, that's how that's put together. So it's not a mandatory match, but you need to have something in there to score points in the system.
How much, what percentage are other townships or other applicants asking for?
It's competitive, so you're not going to know what they put in.
In your experience,
Anywhere
is our
from 5 to
percentage?
10% is a reasonable match for a local community on most of these types of grants.
So the 10%, the folks that are going to commit 10% match are going to have higher points than we are for 5%
Well,
match?
there's other points in the system as far as, what types of projects you're going after, what kind of already commitment that you've made to those projects. So this could build on the Oscoda Beach Park grant that we submitted previously, so you've already committed there. You've already got, plans for improvements out at Ratliff Park, your downtown revitalization and all that stuff. So all of that goes into it. And the point range for the match is anywhere from 0 to 10 points in a 150 point system.
So if it was 0 to 10, we're basing it on percentage, so we're going to get basically 5 points off of
Somewhere
this?
between 5 and 8 points.
And we could lose the grant by how many points? By 1?
You could lose it by 1 point, that is correct.
I guess my question is to the board, should we go ahead and bump that to 100,000 and increase our chances, if you will? I mean, I'm not a lottery guy, but, if you're going to play the lottery, you got to buy as many tickets as you can to increase your chances of winning, right? And if we can increase our number of points by doubling our match, I mean, $1 million is a lot of money.
Where do you see typically these matches that win range?
Again, it depends on the amount of the pot that's coming from, and this is a fairly large commitment through the federal government to this program. I want to say, Todd, do you recall, is it 200 million that's in the?
Yep, that does ring a bell.
Yeah,
But,
I think it's like 200 million. It's through the whole ARP and all of that from the federal government. So again, that's where it plays into it, is the amount of the pool that it's coming from.
Is that statewide, or is that 200 million for the whole country?
I believe this is statewide. This is Michigan.
they're
This is
saying 200
This is
million
the
for-
Michigan Economic Development Corporation pot of money.
I think that I would assume that every township in their right mind is going to apply for this grant. And if we want it, then we need to go with the maximum match.
Where are we coming up with the 50,000 to begin with?
That was my next question, based on whether or not you guys even think we should.
Yeah.
The way I came up with it is the obviously chasing down lots of grants recently and all that stuff. That seems to be a reasonable amount.
No, I'm sorry, where are we bringing the 50,000 from? I mean,
What are we
budgeted for?
budgeting?
Yeah, where's it budgeted from?
Right now, it says it's from local funds and other grant programs.
No, it's just where in our budget, where would we
Yeah, where
take
in our
the 50
budget are
grand
we
from?
doing the $50,000 match from? And do we have enough to increase that to 100 if need be?
100 is questionable,
Okay.
50 is doable, but that would be also probably involving some ARPA funds when spent cautiously.
And points also are based on projects as well, and whether
Projects,
you're,
right, correct.
you're meeting the goals of
What
whatever
you're
the grant.
showing as far, again.
Right, but this is for parks, right? I mean, we're
No,
looking,
it's revitalization and placemaking, so it can be.
I guess it's not limited to, but we're
No.
looking at Ratliff Park, Oscoda Beach Park facilities, et cetera.
And
And
the
if
downtown
that's
area.
what we're going to go to the,
Well, and when we actually put the application together, we will expand on the et cetera, as far as capturing whatever other areas that, for instance, we've got the water main downtown that with where the hotel is going to be tapping into, that could be part of this application to increase that, improve that condition, improve the sanitary sewer coming out of Orchard Beach Park. Again, those are more of the infrastructure side of the of the improvements that the township needs to look at. So we're trying to keep it as generic as possible in all these applications so that we can capture that, you know, and put it to those types of projects also.
How does the point structure work based on the project? Is it different for parks as it is for infrastructure improvements?
It's all based on, like I said, the revitalization and placemaking. It's around the downtown areas as far as that goes. So anything downtown, adjacent to the downtown, as far as what you're looking to improve, is what these grants score high on.
So the grant application is due by June 3rd,
June
which
3rd,
is.
right.
So we're not going to really know, I mean, we don't really know what we're applying, and we're just going to be pretty vague, is that what you're saying?
I'm going to remain as we've been on other ones, so that, again, we still play within the parameters of the grant application, but we have a variety of projects in there so that if awarded it, we have the ability
Then
to
switch
apply
gears and
it
go. Okay.
accordingly.
Does that hurt us on the point structure at all by having a bunch of, we would like to do all
No.
of these things?
No, because again, for your parks, you already have your parks master plan in place, so that's identified your parks project. You have a CIP plan in place. So you have all of these projects identified within your system.
Oh, so you're just going to pull them out of our plan, our master
Exactly.
plans, and put them on there?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I guess I feel based on Tammy's input that I'm comfortable with the 50,000, but I don't think we should go more than that if she's indicating that.
If we lose
it would
by
be a
1
stretch.
point, I will never let
Hey,
you live it down.
I'm going to be hung for worse, less than that before.
All right.
Yeah.
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-16 for the MEDC placemaking grant application,
Support, Sutton.
as written.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Sutton to approve resolution number 2022-16. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Better be successful, Rick.
Thank you, Rick, Tammy, and
Yeah, thank you.
Todd.
All right, moving on to other. We have the USFS Environmental Conditions Letter for the IET.
So this was a letter that was requested from the Forest Service, from the township for environmental conditions. Do you have a?
Oh, there it is.
This letter is in regard to the Iosco Exploration Trail. There was a biological letter or a letter that the United States Forest Service has been holding up the process, and it mostly has to deal with they say there's a habitat for the Masaga rattler. So it's been holding up this whole process. So what this letter is back to them clarifying that, okay, we agree to what you're saying as far as construction, but it's clarified that this is what it is and that this is when the construction is going to happen around their requirements. But they need to see this letter. We need to get this letter back into them so that we can start moving forward.
Does this letter bind us to any specific things, or, I mean, is this?
No, it's just, it's going with their requirements, and basically the requirements are what time of the year can the construction actually happen.
So we're we're just saying that with this letter that, yes, we're going to comply with what you're asking for so we can get the doggone trail built, please?
That's right, yes.
Awesome. I move to approve the letter to these folks about the rattlesnake and when we're going to build the trail.
Jeremy, can you add in there to have the proper wording of the Iosco Exploration Trail as opposed
With
to
the
Iosco County?
change of the wording from Iosco County Exploration Trail to only the Iosco Exploration Trail Committee.
I'll support that. Palmer?
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Palmer with that changed wording as requested. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the MTA Premium Pass Training.
Didn't we buy this last year?
Yes.
It's a yearly renewal,
Yes.
and this is for the premium pass. We get access to all of the everythings.
Everything.
How did it work out? Anybody?
I've done a ton,
Have you?
yes.
Is it it's doing well then? Everybody, any of the other employees enjoying the benefits of the premium pass? Yeah.
Not as many as I'd like, but enough that we actually got about 5,800 worth of free training above and beyond what we paid last year.
Wow.
Because we can actually take the Township Governance Academy, MTA, all of their courses. So anybody, our board of review, we got discounts on that. I mean, it worked out great for us last year.
Yeah, I've taken advantage of a number of these classes. In fact, I just signed up for another one yesterday.
Awesome.
That's coming
Well,
up.
I guess I would move to approve renewing our subscription to the Michigan Townships Association in the premium pass category for the amount of $1,900 for the year to be paid from GL 101-101-960-000.
Support, Sutton?
Okay, there is a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton to approve the MTA Premium Pass for this year. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right, moving on to the second public comment section of our board meeting. You do not have to have a comment card to make comments at this time, and it does not have to be on an agenda item. Sorry, it got stuck in my mouth. So I'm just going to start on the right-hand side and go across. Anybody on the right? Anybody in the center that would like to make public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, we have one person. Come on down. I believe it's Kay, isn't it?
I'm a little upset. Kay Kaiser, Oscoda resident, Pinecrest.
Okay, wait.
First, it's about my private road. What do we need?
Sorry, I just had to start the timer. I apologize, Kay.
All right.
Go ahead.
Let me get my other glasses on. First, my private road, per Mr. Freeman, when he was with Rowe, is now public/private. I went to the township, it's still private, and I want to know, he claimed he would hand deliver the 3 plats that he used for this project. Never did. I've been contacting him since before Thanksgiving last year. He quit replying. Now he works for you guys, and I just met the new dude today. I want this rectified because my family and I have paid for this road to be maintained because it's a private road, not public, that they're claiming, and he found a loophole. Well, now, this is about the water project. May I approach? I need you to look at this. This
Okay.
is the topsoil and the rocks included in said topsoil. It's not topsoil, it's fill dirt. They planted grass 2 days ago. They had to raise my road. I warned them. If you mess with my road, you're gonna sink your cars to the frame. Sure enough, they buried their trucks to the frame. So then they had to gravel it. Now they're yipping at me about the cost. I didn't want a gravel road. I lost 9 trees. They said they'd replace them. Now he's telling me they didn't. He had one of his gentlemen from down below drive up, said they were gonna plant 8-foot evergreens. I'm almost at the end of my life. If I wanted to live in a hayfield, I would have moved to one. I'm really upset about this. They've trashed our yard. Now, they didn't level it out. They buried their electrical box in a hole that's been flooding for years. They haven't leveled it out, so they're gonna have problems with that from the get. I'm no engineer. All I'm asking is that you please hold them accountable for what they said they would do. And I know that I met the new gentleman tonight, but I've called Rowe 3 times this week and I never got a return call. I'm highly upset. I'm on disability. I have no shade now. I'm going to have an electric bill that I can't afford to run my air this summer because they took 9 trees. They had a few marked, but not all of them. On a private road, once again, and now they're claiming it's public/private. So I've called the road commission. You guys went into the township. I need help here. Figure out what my road really is, and then let's have the road commission take care of it because I can't afford to keep doing it, neither can my family. And now it's like an expressway because they had to gravel it. And we got little kids. There's only 3 families that live on my private road. And now we got FedEx, everybody, when they're not delivering to us, garbage trucks that don't pick up on our road. It's not safe. And I'm very upset. And I can show you pictures. They sprayed the grass 2 days ago. Well, it rained, and I knew there'd be pools of water. Just what I said, it's going to be a pond if it really rains. They didn't level it out. And I'm no engineer, but please, can we do something about this? Please. I'm begging you. Then they're telling me I can mow my lawn, and that's not going to fly into, those rocks are not going to fly into my windows or a car going by. This isn't cool.
I'm sorry, Tammy, what road are you talking about?
It's
Okay.
a private road. It's called Oakland or Oak Street per your plat because they kept sending my mail elsewhere to another Oakland road. I've dealt with that for over 10 years also. And I know I came before the board about my road before, but I was happier when it was a mess compared to what has happened now. And about my trees, I'm definitely holding them to it. He's claiming no now, but now he don't work for Roe, so I'm going to have to deal with the new dude. But I am not happy, you know. I'm at the end of my days. I don't want to live in a field. I can't even go in my yard.
Okay. All right, we'll look into it.
I really appreciate it.
Okay.
And I'll take my rocks and fill dirt that they claim is topsoil
Okay.
back.
Okay.
Oh, Lord, thank you for, I just am too passionate. There's much more, but I'll come back the next meeting and tell you the rest.
Okay, thank you, Kay.
Thank you.
Said it was Oak Road?
Okay, anybody else in the middle section for comment? Yep, okay. Nancy?
I'm in the wrong spot. Oh, it's Oakland.
Nancy Roy again. And this is about the DTE Kratos. I am at a disadvantage because I couldn't hear a lot, especially Tammy. You need to pull your microphone closer.
I was trying,
Thank you.
sorry.
The date on the memo, Mr. Sutton, was dated today. Just so you know, memos are supposed to be dated the date you write them, not the date that someone publishes them or reads them. This packet was made available to the public on May 20th, and it's not acceptable or appropriate business procedure. Taxpayers have no idea when you first were aware and notified of the other township officials. It's sloppy, and if you've done this on other documents, it would not hold up scrutiny in a court of law. Now, has the Attorney General been contacted? I know you mentioned the Public Utility Commission. 2 months is a mistake, 9 months is unfathomable. You have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers. I get that you only have, the 2 of you in the office, but perhaps, as Mr. Spencer mentioned, first off, you have to have Township Board approval to change your vendors. But perhaps from now on, you need at least a third person to look over these bills to make sure that there isn't another mistake like that. If the township cannot afford a $14,000 hit to the budget, could you afford a $4,200 hit, 1/10 of that, to your own personal budget? I don't think there's anyone in here who could. So it is your fiduciary responsibility to all the taxpayers that you scrutinize all these bills before you pay them. 9 months was just too long before you noticed this error. And I have seen it on my personal bills, too, just like Mr. Spencer mentioned. It's an easy mistake, maybe 1 month, maybe 2, but not 9 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the middle section? No, hearing none. Third section? Okay. With that, sorry. my agenda, which, sorry, give me 1 second. I'm just going to turn the timer off. Okay. So with that, we're done with public comment. We are now moving on to the board comment section on the agenda. Do we have any board members that would like to comment at this time on anything this evening? I'll look to my left.
I'd like to thank the Lions Club for their $5,000 donation for the revised splash pad, if we get that far. And also CDAM for the comments about benchmarking. I think it shows that we're going in the right direction for the community, and appreciate the support of the EIC and our superintendent to make those things happen. The other comment I have is Ms. Roy's been here a couple of times now, and I do believe that we passed her up from public comment at the end of our last meeting, because I don't think she simply heard us that we were that far. But I would ask MIC TV to see if they can present a plan to the board for hearing-assisted devices for certain individuals. I think that's something we need to look at and do. So those are my comments.
I'd like to further
comment on
that.
Hearing assistance, but, yeah, I think that would be a positive.
Okay.
We do that at churches all the time.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. I was just going to expand on Mr. Woosterbarth saying that it is actually, we didn't build a new facility, so we're not completely on the hook for it, but Americans with Disabilities Act does provide for making sure that we have some hearing assisting stuff in here. And MIC TV has already approached me and asked about it because of your comments. So I think that we're going to have something forthcoming for you very soon, especially with Mr. Woosterbarth, I believe, adding it to the next meeting's agenda. And if he didn't, then I am. So there it is.
Okay.
Right, and I know that they've been working on the audio issues up there because they want people to hear it too. So, thank you. We are too, we're excited. We've got, I think there's 3 options that we're going to look at, and I'm sure that the MIC TV will be presenting those here in the next couple of weeks, so.
Okay, Josh, have anything?
Nope. What did Mr. Palmer say? Because I couldn't hear him. Was that a comment?
He was
or
Hearing
commenting on the
assisted.
hearing as well, supporting Mr. Spencer's comments. I mean, Mr. Westerberg's comments.
Okay.
So nothing? Okay, great. You stole my thunder on the Lions Club, but thanks to the Lions, I'm pass that along. But if we do actually expand, then that will definitely come in handy. Yeah.
And just one other note, at the same meeting, the Lions also has made a commitment to the Iosco Exploration Trail Bike Path. They're committing $1,000 a year for the next 5 years.
That's
for the
huge.
maintenance fund on that.
Yeah, very thankful. And again, we did, Tammy and I talked a little bit about the points that you've brought up a couple times, Nancy, in regard to the lack of our ability to project ourselves a little bit more. So we are looking into that. So hopefully we'll have something. I don't think I actually heard Mr. Westerbarth indicate that it was for the next meeting, but did you?
I didn't, but Jeremy clarified,
No,
so it'll be on the
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay, all right, so I guess we're going to really try for the next meeting, okay. All right, sorry for the delay in regard to transitioning from the closed session, or the meeting start time of being 6, PM, and then going into closed session, but it was all properly noticed and so on, so yeah, but, so again, we did follow proper procedure. Just apologize that you did not see the 6 PM start time, so. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn. It is 9:23.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.